Welcome to the Everyday Awesome Project, where we bring you inspirational stories and game-changing strategies to live your most awesome life.
Back, Polly here. Sam Pruitt in the house. What's up, beautiful humans?
Right. Wow. This is a lovely topic we've chosen. Anxiety.
Dude.
It's not all in your head.
That's anxiety. It's not all in your head. Why? Because it's in your body, people. In your body. By the way, your brain is connected to said body. And we're going to get into that. But
exactly.
Yeah, people get an idea. It's just like thoughts. And it feels like that. It feels like ruminating thoughts and all that stuff. But most people with like real anxiety, I've had it, I've experienced it. I'm experiencing a little bit of it now recently. I'll share later. But you can feel it physically as a vibration, as a heart palpitation, as a breathing, because if you're paying attention to your physical body, you'll feel it in there. And there's a reason, and we'll tell you why.
Well, and I just want to start this off by saying we are not like, when I think of this topic, it's like, I don't want people to go into the doldrums like, oh, thanks. We are here to empower, right? Like the things we're going to talk about are things you maybe aren't looking at, things, insights, things that we've discovered, things that you heard recently on a podcast. You're like, that's brilliant, and it's like, we want to bring that to the listeners here and say like, yo, let's talk about this. Like, let's not just walk around in this state of anxiousness, if you ask me, right?
Exactly. Well, I mean, everything we do is about empowerment. And this particular episode to me is like helping people understand what we know to be true, which is that mental health is physical health and physical health is mental health. So these two things are linked. You cannot break the linkage. Okay. And they're so entwined in the impact around how one part of what you think as a separate part of you, how it's operating affects the other and vice versa. Okay. First of all, you're a whole person, the body, mind, spirit, soul is a whole person. This is all together inside this vessel, you walking around doing this whole thing called humaning. But how the health of one really impacts the health of the other. I think that's really like at the core of our message today.
For sure. Well, let's kick it off. Where are we going?
Well, so this podcast, oh my gosh, I just forgot her name right now because she wrote a book. So I'm just going to look it up real quick. But basically, I want to talk about on my journey, I'm doing root cause medicine, which is functional medicine. It's an integration of Western and holistic therapies to heal my gut dysbiosis and my gut infections and so forth. And so anxiety has been coming up for me. So for me to understand, wow, because my gut was so dysregulated, of course, my nervous system would become dysregulated and I would start to feel a wave of emotions, which I talked about in a prior episode when we talked about detoxing. Yeah. But then also thoughts and emotions and how they're anxiety based. When your body is in a position or a functional level of dis-ease, so however you want to look at that, unease or dis-ease, anxiety can often manifest. It's a normal part of it.
So I guess the mind starts to go, what's wrong? What's going on here? Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Ellen Vora, Vora is her name. Dr. Ellen Vora. And she recently wrote a book, but you guys should check her out. Dr. Ellen Vora, Vora. Okay, so whole human wellness, whole human medicine actually involves looking at the whole person. So really, my core belief system is that you should be looking at all of those things. And so today when we talk about anxiety, I think we're going to break it into two chapters, if you will, that we're going to cover. And one is how it can manifest physically in the body, and then and then what to do about that. Okay. And then how it can manifest in the emotional body or in the mental state of the human, and maybe some solutions for that. Now, we are not therapists or doctors, but through our own personal experience, which, we've been on the planet a while and we've been through some things. Okay. Yeah. But we're always learning, we're always curious, we're always learning, always investigating. This is where these concepts are coming from that we're going to share today.
Yeah, so keep doing your own homework too. Like we're here to share things that like you have watched and listened to this podcast recently. That sparked some new ideas. I was surprised when I did my hypnotherapy training to find out how much the blood sugar dysregulation in the body and protein dysregulation can affect your state. So
Dude.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. We're going to talk about that. Okay, so anxiety is a stress response in the body, right? And it can manifest in the brain too. Some of the causes. So I do want to sort of like outline them at the front because there is some causes of why this happens. There can be a genetic predisposed component to it, but it doesn't mean that it's in my genes. Everyone in my family is anxious or depressed or fill in the blank. And so therefore, it's going to be me, right? That's not how it works.
no.
Epigenetics is how you have a gene package, and then things in your environment, in your upbringing and experience over time, in your daily experience. Who do I hang out with? What is the food that I eat? Like, how do I live my life? That
Yeah.
can either activate or deactivate genes.
Yeah.
That's epigenetics. Definitely, I mentioned environment, right? Social, psycho, and spiritual experience. So that will have a big impact. How do you see yourself in the world? How do you relate to others? How do you relate to the world at large, like on a social level? Past illness or injury, that's kind of interesting to me. So I had an experience yesterday with my chiropractor I'll share with you, which was kind of tripped me out because both of us had this light bulb at the same time when I was working on a back hip issue I have. And then, of course, unresolved trauma, which lots of people are very familiar with. Nowadays, there's so much new science around trauma in the body and it being stored in the body on a cellular or energetic level, but then also how that can impact your response physically to that and then emotionally, mentally. So there are reasons that this happens. And that should be very empowering to people because then it also shows and tells you that there is ways to resolve it.
Nice. There's
You
a
don't have
core
to
root.
accept.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. A small
Okay.
percentage is derived from genetics, and you have something to say about that because epigenetics says you put yourself in places, whatnot. But largely it's things that we're doing, things that we're causing or, impact maybe trauma, might be something happened to us or whatnot. But a lot of this is in our own two hands. And so we're at the driving seat of like where this goes. Right.
Yeah. Too many people like to blame genetics for lots of things. So I've been studying disease, different kinds of diseases. And in general, like it tends to be there's somewhere around a 30 or 40% kind of number around genetic predisposition to something. Name any ailment. That leaves 60 to 70%.
That's up to you.
Whatever
So
I do next, I'm in charge here.
and these are empowered people we're talking to. So yes, so we are going to give them more tools, like if this is showing up for you, remember you do have the power. Yeah.
Totally. So the first one I know you're going to want to talk about at length, which is basically listen up, people, pay attention, get curious. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
So what's your experience there with getting curious about your own experience with
You mean if you're having anxiety, right? Well, first is like, if it's just like one time, right? Or are you commonly or repeatedly or chronically anxious, right? And one of the things we talked about before we went on air is, we're talking about stress or anxiety, right? And we're like, no, we're going down the anxiety route because, stress is that, you think about in the brain, the 2 million-year-old brain, it's like fight or flight, right? And so I like it a little bit of anxiety, especially when we talk about the mental component to the worry track, right? So like brains can go down a worry track, right? And what it is we're thinking about the worst possible outcome. So it's like, when I hear people like, oh, I'm anxious about it, I'm like, so what are you thinking about? Right. And it's often they're like worked up about something. So, there's infinite numbers of potentiality in the world of where from this moment to X moment in the future, right, you can achieve or anticipate. The people that aim for the, anxiety or worry route are seeing the worst possible outcome. Right. And so it's no wonder that they're having experience in their body of fear or dread or anxiety, let's call it, right? It's like your body's going, stay away. That fight or flight mechanism gets triggered, right? And so sometimes it's just the attachment to that worst possible outcome or any negative possible outcome. Doesn't have to be the ultimate worst, but something like that. How about
I would
you?
say they attach to that or they attach to just not having control, period.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have this really kind of hilarious idea that we're in control of things. I mean, we all do this. We walk around all day long. We make decisions to the best of our ability. We gather resources. We do all these things. We're very busy. Humans are very busy doing lots of things. And we think, okay, I have control here. I'm doing X, Y, Z. Therefore, ABC is what's going to be the outcome. And then we're shocked when it isn't, right? Like we're shocked because we thought we had all the control in the world. So I think I've seen both of those kind of being relatively common is, you know, the ruminator of the worst case scenario, and that's all they fixate on, or they just have so much fear and anxiety around the lack of control or the pretend sense of control. And then you'll see a lot of dysfunctional behaviors, and then coping mechanisms will be also prescribed, or then self-prescribed, I should say, self-prescribed.
Yeah, well, I know we're not supposed to be talking about solutions, but I mean, I can't help but speak to that right there in case we don't come back to it for some reason. But it's like, so that old beautiful prayer, you know, the serenity prayer, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can change. And I find that often anxiety is put, like a lot of attention is put on the things you have no control over, right? like you're over
like
here.
What other people are doing.
You're working on things, you know, like I had this friend, it was beautiful. Like when she got it, like, there was something about like, she had this worked up notion of trying to not have her friends die. She's a little bit older and she had friends dying, you know, around her and stuff. So she was just like worked up around, you know, her friends not dying. And I was like, how are you responsible for, you know, for them, you know, like when did you take that on? Like their life is now your responsibility. Like you're going to prevent them from death. Like, do you think that's really a winnable game? Whatever. I'm not saying like, let your friends, you know, forget about
themselves.
Yeah. But like, where are you putting your power? Like, oh, that's not necessarily a winnable game. So, okay, I'm going to focus on what I can control, what I can win at, what I am good at, where my attention, right? And it's like, this is that faith, you know, like, you know, whatever you want to call it. But I often find anxiety lives over in people not understanding the two realms that they're playing in. I have control, something I can do literally something about, or this whole realm of things I don't have direct control over.
Exactly. And you'll see it very common that people will do nothing, or they'll procrastinate, or they really won't take agency and control over very simple things. And we're going to talk about 10 really simple things at the end that are almost all free that people can do, but they won't do that. They don't have any time, and they're not going to put energy towards that because they're so busy worrying about these 3 things over here. You know what I mean? And it's just like a drain. It's just a exhausting drain. And it really, you know, rumination and the whole cycle around all of that is really, it feels like a trap when you're in it. It feels like it's very difficult to break that cycle. And we're saying,
the question is, do I have control over this thing? Like, can I impact this outcome? And if so, get about that thing.
Yeah.
And then take 2 more steps. Can I impact that thing? And if not, okay, well, we'll see how that goes. So, okay, keep going.
We will.
Keep going.
Okay, so get curious and listen. So what I mean by this is have a curiosity about it. And these are some of the things we just talked about, but also the listening is like listening to what is going on in your body, right?
Well,
and then go ahead.
Well, but you haven't told them some of the things that impact it yet, right? So we'll get to that. So like, we'll come back and say like, you know, could you get curious about these areas? Because some people don't make that connection that we're about to share with them, which was surprising to me.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And even paying attention and listening with a curiousness.
Yeah.
Okay. Not a making bad on yourself, judgmental. People don't need any more of that in their life. We got plenty of that going on. But like, hey, I noticed that when I did these things yesterday with these friends, or we went out, had a drink, whatever, I didn't eat well, I didn't sleep well. When I notice those things, when I pay attention, today I feel more anxious. I don't feel good in this skin body that I have. I did some behaviors yesterday that maybe that's not working for me. Or maybe this relationship is causing me some undue stress. Maybe they're a worry wart and their worry wart spilling onto me. Or Mary, I'm very energy sensitive. So I go into a space and I mean, sometimes I want to turn off the empathy
ability.
And turn that shit down, dude, because I can go into a space and be like, whoa. I got to go because this is an overflow over here. I'm literally like walking backwards trying to get out of the room. You know what I mean? Totally. So anyway, that having a curiosity around what feels good and what doesn't. Okay. And then, of course, sometimes you do actually need physical tests to look at your physical body to see if something might be going on. So I'm going to get specific here, but when I say physical test, it could be a lab test. It could be a appointment with a more holistically minded functional medicine doctor who understands root medicine or mind body medicine, however you want to pursue that. Okay. Some of the things that could be going on in your physical body that would be causing anxiety. Are y'all ready for this?
Love these. Yep. Let's hit it.
Ooh, blood sugar imbalance or
That's
dysregulation.
huge.
So
Huge.
many people are in that battle of blood sugar imbalance, right? So they're either not eating frequently enough, not getting enough protein into their body. You mentioned a friend that was a perfect example of this, who starts
Mocha frappuccino of all the ice cream, whipped cream,
for breakfast
yeah, and no
or
food.
whenever.
No food, going through hours and hours and hours without proper nutrition, throwing in thousands, I don't know, 1,000 calories, whatever it is, of high fructose, just shooting that blood sugar up and then shooting it down. Just
Exactly. So if you already know this about yourself, or you don't and you need to go get tested, so you should know where you're at with this. What is your blood sugar like? Are you becoming dysregulated frequently? Is this a challenge for you? Are you even pre-diabetic or undiagnosed diabetic? So if all of that is underlying issues in your physical body, we got to address those.
yeah,
That's
and I think
huge.
I think it would surprise people. I was literally surprised when I did that blood sugar monitor for 2 weeks or a month or whatever it was. Like, I have a very strong pancreas, so thank God. I'm not anywhere near diabetic or anything like that. But I was amazed how much work some meals, some food substances I put in my body make that motherfucker work hard, and like I would be like, I'm okay, right? Some really like I don't eat, sugary muffins and like just whatever. Anyway, the test that I went through with this blood sugar thing was this like, icing on top kind of muffin thing, and I was like, oh, it just tasted. I mean, I do. Hey, look, I eat sugar. I'm not saying like don't eat sugar or whatever, but like that when it caked form or whatever, my blood sugar was like right. How I felt after that, like I felt like the elevator was just going down, but I'm so more sensitive to it. And I'm just saying, like, sometimes you can get yourself to a general homeostasis that you go from morning latte to mid-morning muffin to, whatever. And these leaps you take and your body is just going up and down in this blood sugar dysregulation. And while it's doing that, guess what? Anxiety is probably going to be present. If you're not hydrated, if your blood sugar is like up and down like a wedding dress, it's like, hold up, that's just gonna it's a recipe, I would say, for like that'd be the first thing if somebody walked in as a hypnotherapist and they're like anxiety. I was like, so tell me about your diet the last 3 days. Like let's talk. Let's have that conversation, right?
Yeah, it's totally a roller coaster, and it causes a biochemical, physiological response in your body. Red freaking alert, but we're doing it to ourselves in this instance. So it is really important to look at that big time. Another is your gut. So dysregulated gut. So that was recently my experience is I have small intestine bacterial overgrowth. I'm taking care of that. I could have SIFO2, which is the fungus version. So anyway, it's been a long process to get there and to do this. And during all of that, I felt anxiety like coming up that I never experienced before, like physically manifesting. I was like, whoa, what is this, right? But it's all interconnected, it's all attached. So it makes sense that if there is gut dysfunction in your gut microbiome and the gut brain connection is off, that guess what? Again,
send some signals to your brain. Yeah.
Exactly. You want to talk more about that too? You've got some knowledge in that space.
Well, all I want to say is I think like, I've been I used to say it's been 2 years now. I think it's been almost 5 years now that I've just been a deep student of gut everything, right? And some of the early days, how I get like I go down a freaking rabbit hole and so like in the beginning I was like mind blowing what I was discovering. Now it's been so many years. I'm like, I just know about it. And I think about how many of our episodes we talk about the gut. I'm just like,
Totally.
Okay, like everything, I mean, where you get different literature and different studies, and I know there's still research that we still haven't discovered that is going to come out, right, about the gut and whatnot. But I would just say pretty much everybody's got some form of leaky gut. Thank you, Monsanto, for Roundup. And it's just causing the lining of our gut, right? Which causes dysbio, whatever, and all sorts of things. So, if you have anxiety, take a damn look at, get some gut testing like you've been doing, right? You can't just, hope for the best. And gut testing is, you did several things, right? Some of it's blood, but, and I did one that was fecal test, and I think it was urine also, I forget. But you've got to ask for those
air also.
air. Okay. Next levels, right? So go to the right practitioner to check these things out. Because I'm sorry, it feels like almost every episode we do, we bring up the gut. It's like such a, just so important.
I mean, because we kind of think that our brain is running this show.
There's a brain in your gut.
Our gut's running the show.
Yeah, your brain, and some podcasts and researchers and scientists that I've listened to, they say we're basically, we're the host, and we're keeping those organisms alive. Like they're running the show and we're just here to serve them. Like the impulses and the cravings that we get are because they've got cravings. I'm like,
yeah, and you're referring to your microbiome. Totally.
Microbiome. Yeah. All the bugs.
They're so bossy. They're
like,
so bossy.
We want that ice cream, whatever.
Thyroid or hormonal imbalances. So one of the things I learned, obviously we know a lot about hormones and thyroid too. Both of us have had hormones, menopause, premenopause, whatever, all the things, and thyroid stuff. And it's can be common for a myriad of reasons. But anyway, have those things looked at by somebody who actually know what's going on. But something that was like, whoa, I hadn't actually thought about that. But there's a massive correlation between anxiety and or depression. So there's a whole spectrum there. And birth control.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, yeah. Massive links now that are all coming out in science because we're finally studying women's health. By the way, hey, so glad we got on board with the other
2025.
with 51% of the population. I wonder what's going on in there. But I'm thinking about myself as a young person and many young females, friends, and watching their experience of being on birth control or going off or trying different kinds and whatever, and the amount of emotional disruption. So I'm not just talking about what was happening in their physical body showing symptomatics, bad skin, all these crazy ass things that were also going on, weight gain, blah, blah, blah. That's all flags going up in the air too. Yellow flags, red flags, right? But the emotional disruption. So I have an experience. I've actually had a hysterectomy because I was having all these issues going on. This is pre-menopausal and during my trying to heal from my autoimmune disease and all this crazy stuff. So I was bleeding all the time, totally. I was really having lots of problems, polycystic fibroids, all these things. Ended up having a hysterectomy. And then after that, I was trying to solve the next downstream issue was these cysts on my ovaries, because I still have my ovaries, I just didn't have my uterus. And I went back to traditional Western medicine. They said, well, we're going to put you on hormones. We're going to put you on birth control. I'm like, I just had a hysterectomy for many reasons. And so this is your solution? And I was like, wait, what? Why? Oh,
because it's a lot of hormones.
Yeah, we want to like flatline these hormones kind of. It's like, no. But how easily they're prescribed and how we feel as the female species, that it would be our primary responsibility not to get pregnant. By the way, last time I checked, there's 2 people. And that this is the primary solution that we've provided through Western medicine. So anyway, there's lots of ways to deal with your hormones, but unless you're actually looking at these things on a regular basis and understanding, wow, I took this thing, whatever it was, or I put this thing in my body, and I don't feel like myself, or I feel more anxious, or I feel more depressed. So again, it's all this coming back to curiosity and then being able to have intelligent conversations about it.
Yeah, and thanks to AI these days, you can get way better. You can dive down deeper. You can't always trust what you find. So take that with a but you can get way better answers than you used to get on just general WebMD or some of the generic sites that are very Western medicine driven. You can say, show me the holistic implications, or show me cures, you know, if I wanted to go to naturopathic medicine or Ayurvedic medicine or whatever, you can like pull in that body of wisdom that, you know, AI can now, you know, pull from. What I just want to say one thing about a little bit of the roller coaster of, you know, thyroid has been my thing since I was in my 20s, right? So I started hypo. So I was way hypo, had a big old goiter and stuff. And, you know, one of the symptoms, I would say, you know, so like fast heart rate, you know, high metabolism, you know, it's just like go, 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 you know, like I couldn't sit still kind of feeling, right? So you want to talk about some anxiety, right? So
Yeah.
so, you know, and you would kind of notice it from that hyperness or, you know, whatnot. I think at the time, you know, I was so disconnected from my body. You know, I was raging bulimic and all this stuff. So like, it was just all I thought about was my waistline, you know, not like, you know, what else is going on here? Right? You know, like racing heart, hot all the time, that sort of thing. So, but thyroid can get out of whack on the lower end. Now I have hypothyroid, not hyper, but hyper can create some, you know, sense of anxiety. You talked about the body signal and the mind goes, you know, why is my heart racing so much? This high peak state, if you will, it would feel like mind goes, ah. So,
And all of these things we're talking about affect the vagus nerve
mm.
and the vagus nerve
The
and
second
the
thing we
nervous
seem to be
system
talking about a lot lately.
and the nervous system, parasympathetic,
So tell them what
sympathetic.
that is. So tell them
Again,
what
there's
that
a
is.
whole spectrum in here, people, a whole spectrum. Humans are freaking amazing. How can we not want to know about this shit, dude? It's so cool.
So tell them what the vagus nerve is in case they're just coming to this episode. Just give them a little micro.
Google that. You want to get into AI or
And
reading.
it's not Vegas like Las Vegas. It's VAGUS, the vagus nerve, right? So it's the connection. It runs, you know, down your sternum, I would say, right from your gut to your brain, and it's signaling those two.
And it's got lots of webs. It's pathways. Keep going.
Yeah, well, it's the sympathetic parasympathetic regulator. You know, it's like parasympathetic, meaning, you know, you're relaxed, rest and digest. Sympathetic, you know, fight or flight, kind of, you know, like go kind of thing. So
yeah, and there's a spectrum in each of those too. So just so people are aware, we are simplifying greatly here.
Because we're staying on track.
Are we? But are we though?
Sort of.
But there's a spectrum. So there can be unhealthy versions on either end of the spectrum. Dysregulation on either end of the spectrum, right? So you can be so, you know, extreme in one way or the other, it can be causing other issues. So again, you're looking for balance. The whole body is about homeostasis and balance in all of this many systems. Amen. So what we're talking about here in particular with anxiety being like a feeling that somebody's having, there's just this intricate web going on internally within your body that's coming from all these different pathways and neurotransmitters and, you know, nervous system regulation or dysregulation in your body. There's so many messages coming through and of course chemicals within the body, you know, through the thyroid and through the adrenals and all of that kind of stuff. So that's why it's not so easy to just say, oh, you're just stressed, chill out, you know, do more self-care, go get a massage, you're going to be fine. Like, it's not that simple, right? There really are some physical things that could be going on. So what I also want to talk about are some very obvious things we talk about on a regular basis, which is sleep and nutrition. So we talked about blood sugar regulation. So let's just talk about nutrition quickly. If you are deficient in particular nutrients or vitamins and minerals, highly probable that is going to lead to a stressed state of physical body, right? So gut, we talked about the gut, but it also trickles down to the rest of your body. Your muscles, your brain, everything needs nutrients, right? So if your nutrition is off and you're living off of the Frappuccino way of being in the world, or the fast food way of being in the world, or whatever, that is going to have downstream implications, ultimately all the way down to your nervous system and lead to definitely anxiety or possibly depression. That's going to manifest through these portals.
I would say, just as we're talking about vitamins or supplements. So when I looked into it, it was so magnesium and vitamin B, you know, are big ones to just make sure those are, you know, sufficient.
And D.
well, we could go
Uh,
on and on about,
Yeah.
all,
And then
but
there's a lot of herbs and stuff you can take too, but those are the biggies. So
yeah,
magnesium, B and D, and
yeah.
then and these are easy solutions,
Yeah, and I don't
right?
know, we're not here to say, oh, just go out and start taking that,
Right.
like we're here to say, like, get
You
some
could
blood
be
work.
deficient.
Yeah, get some blood work. And a simple blood test with a doctor can detect those for sure, for sure. So,
And to be clear, they might say you're in normal range, but normal range is really wide.
yeah.
So if you're down on this end of the normal range, that is not normal. It
Mm,
means that based on current society today, and by the
yeah.
way, society is very ill, you fall in the normal range. Great. I fall in the normal range of ill people. That's not winning for me.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Inflammation and the
Mm,
immune system.
mm, mm.
Lots of things can trigger inflammation, but chronic inflammation from environmental factors, lack of sleep, poor nutrition,
Sugar.
yeah, like all of that will cause inflammation, and that inflammation can be an anxiety trigger. So the body just constantly being inflamed and never actually being able to bring the inflammation down. And that is the immune system. So the immune system responding to the triage, just triaging
Mm,
all this inbound
mm,
BS. And
mm.
we talked earlier about the immune system being inside the gut primarily, right? So if the immune system is in hyperdrive, then you have a lot of inflammation, and that can also be an underlying cause for anxiety.
And it can, inflammation can manifest in parts of the body, like it's looking for like a weak link, right? I see people with the rheumatoid arthritis, right, which is a sign of inflammation. So there's a leaky gut issue that's allowing, the immune system is taking care of the most important part of the body, the gut and the organs or whatever. And so something, else manifests somewhere else, right? So disease can manifest in wherever the weakest link is.
That's exactly what happens. And then movement or exercise. So if you're not moving your body, we're going to get into solutions here first, but these are just some of the ways that it can manifest physically.
Mm,
Is like if your body isn't able, your lymphatic system isn't able to move toxins out, if you're not moving your body on a regular basis, again, that lack of movement
mhm.
can be a root cause for anxiety.
Well, I mean, just think about, the body, eh, the hormones that are released when you go out in nature or you go for a hike, right? We get the serotonin, pumping and washing over your brain when you see a nice sunset, or the serotonin washing over your brain when you have a nice conversation on a hike with a friend or something like that. Whatever you do, go play tennis. I'm not suggesting that's it, but it's like those hormones and chemicals soothe the body, right? So we're not in that constant state. So whatever your physical exercise, it's not, some people look at exercise as like this punishment, right? And if you can give, I was just talking with somebody yesterday and she's like, "Nah, nah, nah," she's like very close to cancer. Like she's a very healthy person, but there's this signals from her body, like she's testing and testing because she's like, anyway, and she's like, "Oh, I have to fall in love with exercise." Like she says it like it's a job, like meet
Send
cute.
her to me.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like
the exercise Cupid.
yeah. So, I was like, well, you just
That's
need to
awesome.
find an exercise that you can fall in love with, that you
100%.
like, and it's like, well, I didn't like Pilates, maybe I'll go back to Pilates. I'm like, okay, but don't stop, like, keep going. I was like, she's like, yeah, she lives right now, she's living in Mexico, so she's like, yeah, so I went swimming in the ocean. I was like, oh my God, think about all the, like detoxing with the salt
Yes.
of the ocean. I was like, keep doing that, girlfriend. I hope you fall in love with that. Right.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
so yeah, movement, not having movement, it just doesn't allow those chemicals to get and do their job, which is like wash over the brain with, happiness chemicals and well-being, chemicals.
Totally, dude. Totally, totally. And a resetting of energy. We're going to save that for the 10 things you're going to do. But real quick, let's
No,
talk
yes.
about. So these are physical possibilities of the manifestation of anxiety, right? So there are
Mm,
also are mental and emotional.
mm,
Some of those things could be just pure overload. Okay,
mm.
people, if you're freaking overloaded. Do people not know? I mean, it totally intrigues me. And I'm so guilty of this. I've done this 1,000 times in my life. And I still do it now cyclically,
Yeah.
when I am in a heavy work period of my life.
Mhm.
So I might be on an event, traveling international, in another country, working 10 days a week, whatever. Like there's periods I'm really like, holy F bomb, am I on overload, right?
Well,
I'm
you'll
like
do like
barely
3 weeks
eating.
of, you'll take like 3 weeks of travel, and you're like, over here, bing, 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 and you
Mhm.
come home and you're just like, enough already.
Ooh, exactly. So you can't always not have some periods of overload, but you sure the hell better be aware. Okay,
Mm,
so again, waking up to, is my life just simply overloaded? Is my plate too full? Do I
mm,
really feel like I just don't have the bandwidth for another thing? When
mm.
my girlfriend says, hey, it's your birthday, let's go out, and I'm just like, oh, one more thing. It's like, come on. If there's no room for joy and room for
Yeah,
rest and
yeah.
room for quality nutrition, you are overloaded and you
Mm.
need to get a grip.
Get a team. You need to get a team. You need to have the people around you start lifting some weight. Y'all need to
Can
they
you
need,
all do some curls back there?
well, I just, since I'm in this team management leadership program, I can't tell you how many of the moms enroll their family and excuse me, fucking stepping up and playing like a team, it's like let's work as a team here, not just mom the solo get it all doneer. It's like, no, like they start to
Oh,
enroll
yeah.
their family in teamwork. So
Yeah, everyone else in the house, by the way, can cook. They can clean. I mean, I'm being sarcastic, but I'm not, because like I know that was a big transition for me when I became more and more empowered as a human. Like I need to be empowering you all. I don't know. What are you doing here? You want to eat? Cook some food. You want to clean laundry? Well, hey, that's how the washing machine works. Whatever. Like all of those things. And that's also in your workspace.
Mm.
Like, hey, you all look like you're really talented. You got here somehow, you're getting a paycheck. So you should be definitely doing something. I don't have to be doing all the things.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like in all these layers of our life, sometimes we consciously or unconsciously, default into this lack of delegation and empowerment of others. And it's absurd. We're only hurting ourselves.
yeah, yeah. So look around and go, where can I enroll some team members in this?
Mhm.
How can I spread the love? Don't have to, the mantra of like doing it all my own. I'm totally empowered, some of that, whatever. Like, okay, put that aside and allow people to help you. I know.
It's not a weakness.
No.
Okay, and being disconnected from your purpose and values. Ooh, what do you have to say about that,
That would
Polly?
make me a little anxious.
That would make me a lot anxious.
Anxious,
Like,
yeah.
how do I even get out of bed? Actually, it would make me depressed, but
Yeah,
also anxious. Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think you and I
Why the
would,
hell am I here in the world? I have no idea. I'm just going to wake up every day and go through the motions. Oh, no,
mm,
no,
mm.
no, no, no. Stop, y'all.
So that might be one place to look. It's a place to look. If there's just this out of congruency that you feel in your body, I gotta say, like we know when we're out of integrity, out of authenticity, out of alignment with not, I would say, what we're supposed to be doing, because not everybody's got different definitions of that. I'm not going to go into my definition of that, but it's like, when you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right. Right. So you're anxious because you're calling yourself forth to do something that is just like a no for you, right? Or something better or something over here is calling you. And maybe that served you for a while, right? One of the things I'm teaching in my Come Alive program is follow your path of highest excitement. Like what excites you, like instead of, oh, I got to do this because I've always done it, or these people are counting on me, or whatever the jargon is that you tell yourself, right?
Mhm.
It may have come from a past decision that you made that you may need to like step into now and go, okay, I'm here now. What am I choosing? And
Exactly.
where's my highest excitement? Where is my highest joy? This, how can I bring team to this? Y'all do this now, right? Or maybe I need to uncommit from something.
Exactly. Exactly. If you have in your work life or in your relationship life, especially these two big areas where you really feel disconnected from what's happening
Mm.
there, it doesn't feel good in your physical body in these spaces, reassess pronto.
Wow, that's like me. When I get anxious, if I've been anxious in my life in my work, it's because I'm not traveling enough. Like I can remember, 5 years at this one job, and I was just like, I'm just seeing these same walls all the time, and my body is just like, you're not meant for the same 4 walls for 25 years like some people are, or 30 years or whatever. And then thank you for the golden handcuff, parachute, whatever. I got to
Yeah,
go.
people need to maybe study the evolution of humanity. I mean, in their spare time, just might want to take a look at that. Right? It's just not how we're supposed to be living. Like it's, and the artificial lights and the artificial everything. It's just not reality.
Okay.
Okay, big thing is fear and control or lack thereof. We talked about control at the onset, or people feeling like, oh my gosh, I have no control over this and I'm going to go cray cray. So, what about fear? What's inducing fear in people and why is that causing anxiety?
Well, there's like, if there is a mountain lion chasing you, okay, yeah, that's your body signal, like, get the hell out of there, right? If there's a person in the other room that is dangerous to you, that's your body signal, like, do something about that, right? A lot of this stuff, what is that quote from, um, something like, 99% of the things that I ever thought were going to happen never happen. I wish I could remember the quote. Anyway, but it's like we get all this worked upness about things that never come to pass, right? Like, what if, what ifs that thing happens, didn't happen? What if about the next thing, right? And I would say, focus on that section that you have control over. Focus on that section that you can impact. That is, you have agency over. If you don't have agency over it, yeah, send it some love, pay attention to it as much as it makes you feel good, right? Otherwise, let it go. Like this whole, there's a whole swaths of the world that I am not paying attention to right now,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And more of us, if we find ourselves paying attention to areas of the world, whether it's nearby or far, far away, like I can't, sorry, I'm gonna throw my mom under the bus for a moment. I can't tell you the
Sorry,
things that
Mom.
she like contacts me and she's like, oh, I heard about this and that. And I was like, how are you pulling these things out of like
Thin
all
air.
of well, they're being sent to her on Facebook, that's
I
her.
was going to say they're coming through media.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's still thin air. I call the internet thin air. Anything that is coming through TV, the internet, this is thin air. People are just making shit up. Anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah,
Finish your
yeah.
story about
Well, they
mom.
love to, I'm like, Mom, they're curating,
Catastrophize.
exactly, they love to bring you, I'm like,
Mhm.
I'll tell her, oh, there's a fire over whatever. And she's like, oh, I hear there's 3 more fires over there. And I was like, okay, well, does it help to like think about them or talk about them? There's so many fires going on right now that I am not thinking about, and I don't feel anxious about them.
Right, right.
But
And if you want to be empowered, you go learn how to fight a fire. I just saw a whole show on that yesterday, and I was like, wow,
ah,
there's so few firemen and women that they're training average citizens. I'm so into this. I don't live in a fire zone. I live in the middle of the desert. It's not going to be a fire here anytime soon. But I was just so fascinated by this. They're training just average people. So look into this if you're curious in your community to
yeah.
fight your own fire in your neighborhood and with your house. And I was like, hell yeah, empower the freaking people.
Wow.
Isn't that
Yeah.
cool?
So
I
the
do.
fear, fears often is, states of disempowerment, anxiety is focusing on what you don't want, right? It's like that terrible thing happening. So, what else? One of my favorite phrases is like, oh, I wonder what's trying to happen here. Like if I don't have direct impact control, I can't adjust this outcome, and I just let it go. Like, I wonder what's trying to happen here. Okay, I'll see it when it unfolds and as it unfolds. And I just take the anxiety out of it. I take the charge out of it and go, okay, I'm doing what I can, where I can. Is there any more I can do? No. Okay. Right.
And I would just add one last thing before we move on to some solutions is, if people are triggered by things, so, a trigger can come from a lot of different areas and there's different scales of that, right? A lot of people are triggered by old traumas and different things, relationships, whatever. So if you
Communication, like we talked about.
yeah, if you find that you seem to have a lot of triggers or you have a particular trigger also, so either one very specific one or a series of them on
A
a regular
favorite.
basis,
Yeah.
a favorite, if you will, then you need to take a look at that,
Yeah.
right? You don't just keep feeding it. I'll just tell a brief story. I got jury duty. Yay, me. And I went in, and usually I get excused and whatever. And then it turned out that I didn't. They called my name. So then I had to actually go into the courtroom where they vetted more. And then they eliminated more people. And then somehow I'm still in now. I'm out of 100 people. I'm down to the last 20. I shared this with you the other day. And I couldn't believe how triggering it was for me to be in that courtroom and listen to the 6 pages of things that were related to the case. I can't give any details or whatever, but just that coming into my ears and also in my line of sight and the people and the different thing. And I was like, holy hell. Okay.
You're like,
And
"Can
then
I just
and then I kind of looked around at the other people. I was like, anyone else getting triggered? And literally I saw one person crying. I saw people physically reacting, having physical reactions. And I was like, whoa, dang, because it's hard subject matter. I'm not even in the trial, by the way. This is all preempt. I haven't technically been chosen yet.
No.
But I immediately left there and called a person who's very skilled in this area and works in the professional, that kind of stuff, and just re-educated myself to some things. So I could like go, whoa, why was that so triggering for me? I need to have a conversation about it with an intelligent human. So I picked up the phone and I feel fine. But if I didn't, and I just kept internalizing what was coming up for me, holy hell, talk about a spiral.
Right.
So, again, it's awareness,
Yeah.
it's leaning on resources, it's having conversations. And let's get into that. On that note, let's get into
Well,
some
I just want to give one example, like what you're talking about. So I was coaching this gal yesterday about there's a lot, what's the word? Hypervigilance, like this hypervigilance about people's needs and not upsetting people and not wanting to hurt someone's feelings and not wanting to send that. So that person, and it was just this hypervigilance about people. And I was like, whoa. And like, talk about the like constraining your ability to express, let alone like, I mean, all the things that the mind must be chirping on. Exhausting. Yeah. Yeah. So this hypervigilance. So I don't know if we're going to go into answers, or solutions.
We are now. What do you want to say? You can go get started because I've got a whole list.
Well, so there's a root belief underneath, so there was an experience or multiple experiences. Everything's childhood, right? Okay, let's just say like there was experiences back then.
It sure is.
that taught her a pattern of being hypervigilant, right? So like she just has this pattern running in the background, locked in place by a belief, whatever, or a couple of beliefs, right? So until you first notice it, like she's like, oh, well, I got to do it. And I was like, oh, you really care a lot about, getting it just right with this person. And and then this person, because like as the more I got to know her, I was like, well, so you really cared about how you did this and then really cared. I was like, wow, there's kind of like this wall of hypervigilance out there that she had. It wasn't just like one relationship. It's, all around her. And it's like, okay, so how can you begin to look at what would I have to believe to act like this, right? Because then you can start to get those beliefs that are hidden in the subconscious out in front of you and begin to work with them, right? And we don't have time to go into like all the ways you can work on, limiting beliefs and stuff. But number one is just becoming aware.
Exactly.
Is like magic. You're like, holy craps. Because once the behavior is identified, two, once the belief or the strategy or whatever's driving it, or even better, if you can remember what caused it. Because if you can do the work on what caused it, you can release that, right? That's where you can hypnosis or whatever, you can do all kinds of work around that. You go, that wasn't even true, type of thing. But anyway, so I just wanted to mention that if you've got this behavior of hypervigilance, like anxious, right? You're like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Like she was afraid to go to this place because if she said this and I was like, you're going to control that? I was like,
good luck controlling that.
Goodness. Yeah. So just if you've got a hypervigilance kind of thing going on, am I describing that right? Do you get it? Like
I totally get it.
It's landing. Okay.
It's this very primate thing that's going on.
Yeah,
because at the core of like hypervigilance is like survival, right? But there's this protective element of the hypervigilance activity.
There is a level of, so I think every human, well, maybe this is too sweeping, but most humans come out of their family of origin with a, understanding that the parents, a lot of parents are like, my word, this is how it is kind of thing, right? So we have this way of behaving that we got trained by the two primary people in our life that what these two people say matters very much,
or
or
whatever caretaker was actually feeding you and keeping you alive.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
liken that, translate that to your origin story, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we get this pattern of like looking to that person because it's our source of love, it's our source of well-being and security and
Safety.
all these things, right? And connection, all this stuff. So if I don't behave, if I don't deliver what that person wants, or if that person is out of align, like I had the family members that were erratic, let's say, and I can't figure out what they're doing, and I deliver the wrong message, or if I come at them at the wrong time or something like that, right? You get different results, right? So that level of training gets indoctrinated to most of us because we have these parents or caretaker, if you will, right? I have a feeling there was some level of strenuousness of caretaking that required that level of hypervigilance, right? Or she just applied it to everywhere, I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure.
Well, it might have gotten compounded. It does for many people once they went into school and then had a similar experience with authorities in
Teacher.
school. And
Yeah.
then they went here to the relationship world, right? And then they have so it just keeps like layering and layering and
Yeah.
layering the indoctrination or the neural pathways, the responses, all of it.
Ways of
nervous
being.
system. Yeah, the ways of being in the world.
Contort. I told her, I was like, well, just notice, you're doing these emotions. They said, there's probably a way when you start to contort, like we do depression, it looks a certain way, we can get really into depression by putting our body there. We can get really excited by putting our body in that state. I'm like, I have a feeling when you start to contort, like you're going to contort a text or not saying or doing something, your body has a way of doing that. Like you've got an emotion that shows up to tell you, oh, be careful, like hypervigilance, alert kind of thing. So anyway,
let's give people some solutions.
we got none. Sorry, you're stuck with it.
We got nothing. Good luck. We'll see you.
Must suck. Yeah.
Bye. Bye now. The number one solution that has come out of the actual scientific research, you know how happy this makes me. Exercise.
Ding, 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 ding.
So again, people can go and study scientific research. Just, there's a thing called the internet. Use it in a positive, productive way. So exercise. But what was fun about that is secondary to like actual exercise and normal modalities was dance.
Well, that's exercise. That's exercise.
Which is a form of exercise, and shaking the body. So the shaking and letting out, which leads us to the conversation around trapped energy, which I'm a believer of, cellular health, mitochondria, all the energy systems of the body, and then that getting trapped in there, emotions getting trapped in there, trauma getting trapped in there, but definitely anxiety can get trapped in your body. And if you want to move it out of the body, just like poop and pee and sweat, move the body.
Move the body. Yeah. And, as you said, dance, I was like, I think of my friend who was like, oh, I have to fall in love with exercise. I'm like, what the hell? Turn on some music you like and, enjoy yourself for a little bit. I mean, I think about all the years in my 20s and whatnot, going to dance clubs and stuff, like, yeah, like that was get a great workout. And
we didn't even know we were going to therapy.
Right.
We were going to therapy. We were with our friends having a social experience in community to music. And number two is music, by the way.
Oh.
Damn. And we were dancing our bodies. We basically were going to therapy.
Dude, I would double clip. Oh, so true. Like I think about how much you come out of a nightclub and you're just like, oh,
you're high as a kite, and you didn't smoke a thing, you didn't drink a thing. You're totally like so in the zone.
Or your best music festival, concert, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that was amazing, right?
Yeah,
It's those
I wish
chemicals.
people would go there more sober to see like what the full experience is, but don't get me started on that. Okay, so music and energy. Nature. Obviously, we are big fans of nature and being in nature and the energetic experience there and what it does to your brain. But also it's shifting perspective. So it's going out away from your current space in the house, in the office, on the computer, whatever the thing is, on your phone, in your car, and out and shifting your vantage point, literally your visuals. Like I'm looking out my window right now at these freaking mountains that are unreal. So every time I drive home, and I live here for a reason, and I look up at those mountains, or I drive somewhere where there's magnificent nature, the beach, the desert, whatever, I'm literally like, ah.
That sigh.
Can't be anxious. Can't be anxious.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I pick up on so much more in the last years is frequency, right? And I notice the frequency of the planet at, or in my local area, let's say, because there's different time zones, right? So like Australia is up when I'm or sleeping or whatever, but like in my local area, if I go out for a sunrise walk and there's like very few humans moving, right? You talk about that busy of our planet. That's that frequency that gets, and so that energetic hum that we get into our car and we go get into traffic and then we get into the grocery store and then we got to get to all these things that we're out doing. I would just say, nature doesn't have that hum. It has a totally different frequency that it's operating at, right? And so
Exactly.
yes, there's a visual. I would just say you don't have the reverberation of other energy coming at you. Nature's like, yeah, leave it all here. Have at it. We got a big old playground. You can leave all that negative, we can, it's like, what do they say? The mushrooms these days underneath are doing the carbon recycling, like they're the best CO2. It's like, yep, just leave us all your negative frequency. We'll recycle that for you. Just
It's freaking miraculous.
Yeah.
It's miraculous. And then we wonder why in confined spaces or where there's a lot of people, or like I was expressing, being sensitive to other people's energy earlier in my comment, I'm defending myself from the other energies. Now, that's really exhausting.
Yeah, or
Right?
violence. Yeah, violence is higher, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Sleep and light. Whoa. Hello again. You have to sleep. Everyone has to sleep, and everyone has control over turning the lights on and off.
Let's just assume our people, yeah, they get this. You got to get those Z's,
And restrict the light. Okay, we talked about food being nutrient dense and also being aware of your gut microbiome. So again, you have to eat, you get to choose what to eat, right? We're not saying that you have unlimited resources financially to eat whatever, but you can get back to foundational nutrient dense whole foods. Please,
yeah, and watch those
there.
so one of the things that I started doing with, AI and stuff is a low glycemic, right? So just searches or recipes. Low glycemic is one way of saying I don't want to like have a blood sugar spike, right? So if you want to research that and look towards low glycemic dietary options, that will help regulate your blood sugar better as well.
And build your gut microbiome. Okay. Connection. So connection to the self and others. Again, we have to connect with humans anyway. And last time I checked, I take myself everywhere. So I might want to be friends with all of this. And it can be hard. It's been a journey. Like, this didn't come naturally to us, unfortunately, because of our environments and all of the things, how we raised, whatever. But we're doing the work now. We're committed to being on that path now, and also with our fellow humans.
What just came to me, and I hadn't put this together until you started saying like yourself and whatnot. So I don't remember how many years ago now, it's maybe been 10 to 15, I started, my morning routines, right? And it's changed over the years. It's got various rituals and whatever. But what I started to notice when you said that is, it's like a commune with myself, like a commune with myself, right? Like all self, not just like little s, but big S. And I think if I went too long without doing that, I could see how the frenzy of life and out there. So I have an every morning reset, like at night, great reset, like, and the brain washes, all the stuff from yesterday and whatnot. And then in the morning, I reconnect. I like get charged back into my battery source, if you will. And then I go out fully charged, because we talk about capacity, right? And so sometimes I think lack of sleep, poor food habits, not exercising, not taking care of yourself, like your capacity just gets lower. And so things that come at you, we talk about, well, you can just decide, oh, that I have control over that or I don't. When you don't have a lot of capacity, you feel like you don't have control over a lot of things. Like I'm not resourced, if you will. And so when you begin to level up the sleeping, taking care of these hygiene items that keep your capacity at a good level, then you can manage the things that come at you in life, if you will, and make those mindset choices, right? Just drifting into, I have no control over that. I'm not going to think about that. Or you lean into, and I would say, I noticed one day last week, I had gotten just like crappy sleep, whatever. Like I was just
All the things.
moving, and just like along that, whatever. I can remember I went into, like, me, I've been traveling a lot. So like sometimes I don't have Whole Foods nearby, let's just say that. And so I go into this like market in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, oh, and I noticed how I made poor food choices. Like I grabbed like Pringles, like jumped out at me. I was like, oh, I haven't got Pringles in forever. I was like, Pringles,
Comfort food. Mhm.
Exactly. And it's like those lower, when you're burnt out, whatever, the body's just like,
Mhm.
I've made the, bad food choices. So yeah. Anyway.
Mhm. And that, double clicks on the relationship with self, but also the relationship and connection to others is a big part of this too. So loneliness is a real thing, right? People feeling isolated and disconnected is incredibly painful emotionally, can cause a lot of anxiety, of course, and angst around not feeling like you have belonging. So we really want to encourage people to find belonging in their community with people that they trust in safe spaces, right? But it can be as simple as one person and one point of contact. It can be a circle of people that share your values and share your interests, right? Maybe it doesn't exist in your home. Maybe it doesn't exist in your workspace. Like you have to go seek it out. It's not going to necessarily be delivered to you. They're knocking on your door. Hey, you are so cool. You should hang out with me, right? Like you have to make an effort for these things. I, throughout the day, weave into, and am famous for weaving into these places of connection for myself, right? So it's my coffee shop that I frequent, and those people, those beautiful humans. It's my gym space and those incredible humans, right? Like, so I have my little places for connection. And then, of course, I have my rituals of self connection as well out in nature. But everyone needs to find this. It's like the fabric at the core of our being,
For sure.
you
For sure.
know?
Yeah. So see what, resonates for you, just knowing that, that frequency that we talk about, that buzz of society, right? How can you unplug from that and plug back in, or just, kind of disconnect for some while, whatever it is, and there's lots of techniques, breath work, getting outside, yoga, whatever your thing is. Yeah.
And then the last thing is to, and this comes back to awareness too, like whatever you're putting into your brain, your eyeballs, your ears, your body, right? So this is all the things we kind of covered today, but except for this like obvious factor too, is like if there is, coming into your auditory or your eyeballs through news, through media, through sound, through words, etc. If there's a disruption in that for you,
Yeah.
you need to stop those things. And I can't really think of many things that's not the case in modern society today with our news and our media and our online and all of our things. I mean, we really have to guard ourselves against it. We didn't used to, but now I feel like every time I turn around, I'm like, what is this I'm hearing? What is this I'm seeing? Like it's a barrage almost. So if you can at least have awareness of those things will absolutely be anxiety inducing, and you creating just awareness around, wow, that doesn't sound good to me. That doesn't look good. That crime show I've been watching every night, or that type of music I've been listening to, or that podcast, or that scrolling the doom feeds and the crazy, weird behaviors online is absolutely going to cause anxiety. I mean, that's what they're there for. That's their whole goal. So don't let them get one over on you.
Yeah, don't be the next statistic. Yeah, check out from that and check into the other things that light you up. There's so many.
Go out and play.
Yeah, and there are good channels. Like sometimes people
Totally.
just fall
You're right.
into, channels of dreary and destitution and what's wrong in the world. Yeah, you can tune in, and guess what? There's some really nice options. There's people out there making beautiful, I found some beautiful musicians that just like are out in nature, and I'm just like, look, go for it. Like my happy place, whatever. If you like interior design, watch interior design, but watch things that
Exactly
lift you up and make you feel good, not things that, because it's all about, especially generationally, I think generationally before us, it was heavy on being informed, right? Like being an informed constituent type of thing. And, they don't want to not be informed. And it's like, yeah, but the news has changed too. You haven't noticed, like What
Oh,
used to be,
yeah.
what used to be news is like reporters reporting on what's happening. Now it's like all the slant. How can we like spin it and dramatize it and bring you the worst of what's happening, not just newsworthy, you know? Yeah. So that's, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, our audience knows that. They know.
They best by now, or they haven't been paying attention. Okay, so anxiety, it's not just in your head,
Yeah.
it's in
Yeah.
your body,
What's so, yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can do something about it.
And I would say there's a, what we tried, you guys don't have the visual of this, but what we try to convey is all the areas that you have uh, agency over doing something about, the muffins in the morning and the things you're putting in your body, places you're spending your time, or you taking care of your sleep hygiene, all these things that, and then, some simple checks with yourself. What am I giving my power over to? What's running in the background of my mind? Or can I do something about this? If not, let it go. Don't, just see how it's going to go. Right.
Totally, totally. To me, that's the biggest takeaway I want to, reiterate is that how much what's going on in our physical body's health or dis-ease or unease is going to manifest in anxiety. And so, again, not just thinking about it as if I could just get my thoughts under control, if I could just medicate my mental state or whatever, or self medicate my mental state, then that anxiety is going to go away. If there's physical issues going on in your body and there's a state of disease, then it's going to manifest in a myriad of ways. Anxiety is probably going to be one of the big three.
Yeah, and mine would be, just was so surprised by blood sugar,
Mhm.
So if you're not aware of your blood sugar and regulating it, and like, just be aware, just look into that. If you're like, I do love a good mochaccino, frappuccino, thingy, or a muffin and whatever, you might be causing that blood sugar roller coaster that could be leading to anxiety unknowingly. So
All
cool.
right.
All right.
All right, beautiful humans. Remember what we say. How your life feels is more important than how it looks.
And every day is your opportunity to find your awesome.